Hi, I'm Matt with Hoboken Horology, and today I'd like to compare the no-date Submariner versus the Seamaster 300. This is going to be a comparison video between that very special Omega Seamaster 300 and the classic no-date Sub. Both these watches are very similar and also very different. So I think that this is an interesting comparison that I can give, having handled and worn both of them. I can give an honest opinion on how I feel about both and maybe which one will be right for you. This is going to be opinionated, and this is going to be about the feel of the watch and about different features between the two that I feel a lot of videos maybe won't discuss or won't go in enough detail, where I can offer my own personal opinion on these two pieces. So let's get into a close-up of the two. On the right, this is a Seamaster 300 Master Co-Axial. And on the left, we have a Rolex Submariner. Yes, this is not a no-date Sub. This is a 116610. I lied a little bit, but let's just pretend that date window doesn't exist, and we have a perfect no-date Sub example. So let's go into the dial on both of these, and I'm going to cover a variety of subjects, but I'd like to start with the dial because that's what's the most important. Let's start with the Rolex. So the Rolex dial, as most of you know, is a very classic Rolex dial. It's got a lot of interesting specific details to Rolex. The Mercedes hands, the rounded kind of lollipop almost seconds hand, the wording on the dial, and the indices are raised. A lot of these things I really don't want to go into too much detail, other than to say that this is a very recognizable dial. This is arguably the most recognizable watch in the world. Everyone knows what a Submariner looks like, so much so that people will ask if your other dive watches are, if it is a Rolex Submariner. Now, I want to talk about the comparison between the two. Now, the indices on here are applied indices, and they are raised. They're raised above the dial, whereas the Omega is a little bit more interesting, I think. It's a sandwich dial. The indices, they are cut out. The markers are actually cut out, and the piece, excuse the dirty dial, the piece, there's a lume plate underneath the actual dial, and this lume plate, this plate is lumed, and it's a very classic styling between the two. Now, if you wanted to say which one was better, it's kind of a toss-up because the Rolex is more recognizable, it's more of a classic look, whereas the Omega almost has like that Panerai kind of type to it, where it's got a cutout dial. Between the hands, there's a lot of things I prefer on the Omega. I like the hands on the Omega. I like the look of the dial. I like how they shine. It's very easy to tell. The Omega gets a lot from me. A lot of pros from me to the Omega. That being said, the Rolex hasn't really changed that much. It's been the same watch for a very long time. And just like the Speedmaster dial has not changed that much from Omega, which makes me think that, this is a classic style. It's a reason that Omega might stop making this in 5 years. They might get away from this. And there's a reason that this is kind of a re-release of an older watch where they kind of try and different things, and this is stayed the same. So you can't really argue with something that hasn't changed. And that's why what is such a big draw about Rolex. That's why Rolexes are still so popular, because it doesn't change. Which brings me to the case. Now the case does change. The lugs on this, it's a 40 millimeter watch, but the lugs are a bit larger than most watches, especially in comparison to the Omega. Now you can see how the Omega to me looks kind of a more cohesive piece. It kind of shows more of a round watch, straight lugs. There's a complete drop off where these are rounded. The Omega to me looks more put together. It looks really well thought out. It looks like one solid piece. The Rolex, what they did was they took a classic design and they made it a little bit bigger so it stands out a little bit more. There's a reason that so many people buy this design, and that it is so popular. It is a fantastic design. It's a great idea. And you know what? To play a little bit of devil's advocate to my own enjoyment of my Omega watch, some vintage Rolexes, you will see the lugs are so thin and small because people have polished them down to almost nothing. And it's interesting that the new Rolex lugs are so large because it makes me think that, it was a choice by design to show how new the watch is by how massive these lugs are, how wide it is. Let's go into Bracelet. And I think what Bracelet is going to take us into is it is going to take us to the overall design of the watch. The overall design of the watch. This is arguably a dress piece because people, like I always love to say, wear it on Wall Street and this is their watch. This is their cool watch. You know, I'm a cool guy. I wear this utilitarian watch that is meant for diving. I have mine a little tighter than it probably should be. But you know what? Rolex makes a great watch. And that being said, the entire bracelet is, you can see how dirty my watch is. I really have to clean. I have to clean them more often and better than I do. I just run them under the sink. I really got to take better care. You could see the brush design. And I have to tell you something. I work with a guy who wears an old Tag Heuer. And when I was wearing shinier pieces, when I was wearing my Seamaster a lot, his watch would show so much. It would shine. It would just shine better than my Seamaster. And there's something about an entirely brushed watch. And notice how they don't brush the sides. They make the sides shine just to give it that little extra little glare. Especially with the size of the bracelet. It's a perfect finish. It couldn't be better. I without a shadow of a doubt, it could not be better. Which brings me to the Seamaster. I like the polished center links, but go onto Omega's website and look at the re-release of the Seamaster 300. Notice what they did. They reversed it. They made this center part larger and longer, I should say. They made it longer, and they brushed the center and they polished the sides, and it looks fantastic. It almost makes me think they should have done it with this watch. I love the bracelet on this watch. It feels great. It feels like a great stainless steel bracelet. Actually, this one's too loose. One's too loose, one's too tight. This one feels great. It feels great. It looks great. Taking care of this is a little bit of an issue. It gets so many scratches on it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how easily this scratches. Where I must say, a lot of people online, they brush the bracelet, which I don't think is a bad idea. Even Omega themselves brushed the bracelet on the Spectre edition. So, maybe they should have brushed it. Honestly, if you really want me to get into it, which I'm not going to get into right now, the Seamaster 300 should have been offered on a Omega mesh, because Omega makes a fantastic mesh. This is an off-brand, and this watch right here looks amazing on a mesh strap. I wear it on mesh a majority of the time. That's how much I like it on mesh. And honestly, I've been saying it since I bought this watch. They should have offered this on a mesh bracelet. They should have offered it on a mesh bracelet. I'd like to go into the price. The price difference between these two is massive. The no date sub, remember this is the date version, the no date sub is the cheapest or the most affordable of the Rolex Submariners. Up from there, you have a date sub, which is what I have. And then up from there, you have something like the Hulk. And you can go forward from there. You have I think there's the two-tone, which is and then after the two-tone, there's the blue, white, gold sub. And then you have something like a solid gold sub. It just goes up from there. But the no date sub is the most affordable. And I think that it's a great option. The Seamaster is a little bit of an expensive watch. I think it's expensive. It's close to price on the no date. But here's the difference. You go to resell the two watches. Go to resell your no date sub with box and papers. Go to resell your Seamaster. See which one is going to do better on the market. Just go online right now and just do a Google search of what a no date sub goes for and what a Seamaster 300 goes for. Unfortunately, a no date sub it's like gold. Rolexes are gold. They're like gold. And just to cut myself off, excuse the watches. They weren't wound before I started this video. I noticed the Seamaster is already going a lot. The Rolex seemingly has stopped. But the Rolexes are worth their weight in gold. The resale value is fantastic on a Rolex. The resale value on a 300, not so good. But since we talked about that, I would like to just mention that the crystal on the Seamaster 300 is curved design. It is a curved crystal. And you know what's funny is, apart from this bracelet that gets so dirty, I'm just dirtying it right now, just touching it. This crystal stays amazingly clean compared to something like my Rolex Sub, where the flat crystal attracts so much dust and debris. I mean, after a day of wearing it to work, I come home, it does not look like itself at all. To just jump back into the bracelets before I go off on another tangent, both of them are very similar, except that this is, I believe this is tapered, but it's not as tapered as the Rolex. The push system on the Omega is simple and quick. It even has a little push button there. Tells you positive click, an easy release. I will say it's very comfortable. And the Rolex Submariner has this very large clasp, 18 mils, I believe, across, and this starts at 20, works its way quickly down to 18. You can notice it looks like a fat Rolex right here. This is a fat watch. I always say that, Rolexes are fat watches. They're fat, it's so fat, kind of ugly looking. And then it tapers down to an 18, which is just gorgeous clasp. It's just so nicely machined. And even this part is like a little spring. A lot of people don't even notice that this part of the clasp springs, causing it to actually activate, engage and disengage. It's metal here. I noticed the Tudor. On my other video, I go off on how much I love Tudor and how much, I don't own a Tudor right now, but how much I love Tudor bracelets. And Tudor uses a little ceramic ball bearing that locks their bracelets into place. Excuse the plane above. Where Rolex just sticks with stainless steel. I wonder if it's an age thing because this is an older Rolex Sub, and they have their own system for adjusting. Pull out like that. You can move it. Mine's a little dirty like the rest of my watch. Put it in. Very positive click. Very nice click. Now the two clasps, I'm not going to talk about because I'm going to make another video actually tonight and post it alongside or a few days after this one, talking about just the clasps between the two watches. Because I'm kind of a watch nerd, as you might know, and I make all these videos, that I want to make a video just on the two clasps. You can almost hear, I have so much to say about these two. I got to make a separate video. Real quick, the bezel. This weird kind of clicky noise. I kind of liked it, but when I first got it, I was like Googling it. I went into Omega to like make sure mine was like sounded the same as another one because it's just like kind of, I don't know, it's kind of got like this cheapy kind of feel to it. The Rolex one, this bezel is loud, but it's very much positive. It's got a very positive clicking noise from the spring, the click spring in the bezel. It's fantastic. So let's go into the pros and cons of both watch. I think this will answer a lot of questions. So huge pro to the Omega. This watch has got straps. It's got an Omega strap. That's the bond strap you can wear. It is an awesome strap. It is so cool. It really makes this watch sell. I put this on the mesh. It looks fantastic. I'm telling you, Omega made a huge mistake. They should have offered this watch on the mesh. That's how much I like the mesh on this watch. I mean, just looking at it, I kind of fall in love with this watch all over again. Case back. Now, some of you would consider this a negative, but the Rolex, as you probably know, have a solid case back. And for me, that is a huge positive. I can't tell you why. Maybe because it makes the watch thinner, but I like my watches to have solid case backs. There's just something about that I find really attractive, and I don't really like display case backs. This has a fantastic movement, and you can see the movement through the case back. It's nicely decorated. It's easy to tell this watch isn't fake, whereas a Rolex, you have to bring it to someone. You have to make sure you have box and papers. It's very difficult to tell a Rolex sometime if it's fake or not, whereas this has a movement. You can easily look at the movement. For me, that's a huge negative. I don't want a display case back, an expedition case back on a dive watch. Magnetic. This watch is anti-magnetic up to 15,000 Gauss and that's huge. I work around a lot of computers and machines and things, and you know, I don't have to worry about this watch pretty much ever. I don't have to worry about any part of it. This can be magnetized. Leave it on a high-end speaker too long or something along those lines, and you could have a magnetized movement. I think that parts of the Rolex Sub are anti-magnetic, but I'm not sure how anti-magnetic the movement actually is. So let's go into the look of the watches. Here's the thing. You can use this as your beater watch, as your, I'm gonna wear on the weekends with a t-shirt watch. You can wear this watch with a suit. You shouldn't, but you can. And a lot of people do. And a lot of people, this is their most expensive watch. This is the watch they wear. They're king of the world. This is all they wear. This watch is more of a dressy watch. You can wear it with a t-shirt, but really, because of the polished center links, it is meant to be worn dressed up. I actually think it looks really dressed up on a NATO. I think it looks great on the Omega NATO. I can't speak highly enough about Omega and the NATO strap you can buy for this watch. That being said, I don't know. I prefer to wear the Rolex Sub. That's just how it is. It's a comfortable watch. This watch is comfortable. It's not the most comfortable watch I've worn ever. It definitely is not. It is a comfortable watch, but it's not the most comfortable watch I've ever worn. It's nice. I love it. I love this watch. This watch I love too, and the adjustment system makes it easy to put on and take off on the clasp. This is easily the most uncomfortable watch I've ever owned. I don't know if it's the straight end, lugs, or if it's the old design, or it's these lugs digging into my flat wrist, or what the hell it is, but this watch is incredibly uncomfortable. Since this watch is anti-magnetic, you can't change the straps on this. Yeah, you can. There's people who put Rolexes on NATOs. There's people who put Rolexes on mesh straps or whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You buy your watch, you can smash with a hammer. I don't care what you want to do with your watch and say that it's the right or proper move. I'm telling you that the Rolex Submariner and Rolexes themselves do not look good on straps. They shouldn't be moved to straps. I don't think they look good on straps. I think that they shouldn't be taken off their bracelets. Rolex puts them on the bracelet, leave them on the bracelet. And maybe I say that because it's so perfectly machined. It feels so right. It just feels perfect. Absolutely feels perfect. And I think that's a positive for this. I'm gonna say one huge, huge negative for me on why I love this watch. It's one of my first really high-end watches. I have to say one of the huge negatives for me is this. It's how high it sits off the wrist. It might not be super high off the wrist, but it feels really high off the wrist. And I've caught myself banging it into things. Also, there's a huge design flaw on this watch, and that's this ring. This aluminum ring that goes around the circumference of the dial, it can get scratched. You can scratch this ring as easily as wiping it with one of these cloths. It scratches easily. I don't know why it does, but it does. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's a softer steel, maybe it's aluminum insert. I don't know what it is, but it scratches easily. It scratches so easily, and you can't polish it. It's between sapphire and the ceramic bezel that you don't want to get polish on or anything like that. So you have to tape this whole thing up if you want to polish it. I don't even know how it will polish. So, you know, in 10 years, who knows what that's gonna look like. My watch is doing okay. I bought this brand new when it came out. But this watch in 10 years is gonna look how it looks right now. Apart from me having to probably rebrush it, it's gonna look the same way. This watch, I'm not sure how it's gonna look. Also, Rolex uses their own type of stainless steel. And I can tell you from personal experience, the Rolex stainless steel they use is probably the nicest stainless steel I've ever seen. It's just that nice. So, buying a watch pre-owned, buy the Omega Seamaster. You know, you buy pre-owned, You're not going to lose that much money. It should hold its value okay because you're buying it pre-owned. And it's a great watch. You like straps, you like your watches, you like to play around, you like to put them on leather, put them on all kinds of different straps, try different mesh and things. Buy the Omega. I think a lot of people like the Omega. It's got the George Daniels movement, escapement in it. It's just, it's a marvel of modern watchmaking design. The Rolex No Date is a timeless watch. It's simply timeless. It will hold its value like gold. You don't have to worry about it. It never goes out of style. You can wear this watch for 50 years. It'll still be something. If you bought a No Date sub 50 years ago from today and you were wearing it right now, it would be worth a lot more money. A date sub 50 years ago and you're still wearing it today, that watch is worth a considerable amount of money. See what I mean about Rolex? Will this be worth a considerable amount of money? No, it won't be. But as long as it maintains its value, it'll be worth a considerable amount of money and it'll hold its value. The Rolex versus Omega, now it's such a difficult question because you're not just talking about watches, you're talking about brands, you're talking about somebody saying you own a Rolex and somebody saying you own an Omega Seamaster 300. One means something big, another might not mean that much to somebody at all. So, you know, it's an interesting difference. When I see pictures of this watch and when I see somebody holding it in a video, when I see it on a bracelet, it really sings to me. This watch is the watch for me. You know, it's. I didn't just buy it because I saw it in James Bond, but it definitely helped. It just looks great. I read this great article about a doctor who is around a lot of MRI machines, and he knew that if he ever left his watch in the room or something like that, that it would be fine. I wouldn't go as far as to say that's a reason to really buy the watch. I would just say that it's an accurate watch and that you don't really have to worry about it. So the Rolex Date, the No Date, I should say, the No Date sub is an old classic. But as I say, you can't really change the straps on this. You can't put different straps on this watch. I'm telling you, you shouldn't. And the reason I say that is because Rolex did such a great job at making this watch. You put this on, I mean, I don't want to put it on. I won't take it off. I won't take this off if I put this on right now. It's a great watch. It's a tough watch. And though Rolexes might not be seen as a specific dive watch that you buy to use professionally diving, because I don't think people really do that. I don't think somebody goes out to buy a Rolex and to buy a Submariner to go dive. I don't think people do that. I think people would buy like a Seiko to go dive. I would even buy like a Tudor Pelagos and go diving with that. I think the Tudor Pelagos is a great watch, but that's for another day. Between these two, you really have to ask yourself, do you want to spend almost double the amount of money? Let's say in the pre-owned market. I spent a lot of time looking at pre-owned watches. In the pre-owned market, do you want to spend double the amount of money for a watch that doesn't have as many features? You know, wouldn't you rather have a unique escapement made by a master craftsman by Daniels? Wouldn't you rather have this with a quick adjustment and anti-magnetic and it goes great on all these different straps? Or would you rather have this Rolex that's more of a dress piece? You really can't change the straps on it. There's not a lot of straps that look good. People put rubber straps on it. The Everest rubber straps they put on it. I don't like rubber straps. I try to get, when I buy a watch that has a rubber strap, the first thing I do is take it off and put on a bracelet. Even if it's an aftermarket bracelet, it's the first thing I do. But this watch will hold its value. You don't have to worry about losing money on this watch. You can buy a pre-owned Rolex sub, and in 5 years, you might sell it for more money than what you bought it for. You know, there's a reason that people still buy these watches. Unless these watches tank for some reason. Let's say 36 mils is the new thing. Everybody wants to have a 36 mil watch. Everybody wants a smartwatch. You know, the next smartwatch comes out that has an amazing battery and Rolex supports faces. It's Rolex dial on the smartwatch, which would never happen. Maybe this watch won't be worth anything. I don't think that's the case, but who knows, you know? This is a safe investment. This isn't. I will say that if you're still watching this video, I'm sure a lot of people just kind of, you know, skip to the end, or they kind of, you know, they just fast forward some parts that they're not interested in. But I'm hoping you made it this far, and if you did, when Omega released the re-release of the Seamaster, I was looking at the Seamaster, the re-release, and I was so envious compared to my Seamaster. I still love this watch, and if you have a Spectre, then you have a great watch still. But, and maybe Omega will continue to make this for the next 5 years, but I gotta say, when they did that re-release, I was really upset. Now, if I sell this, or anything happens, I get rid of this watch, it might be a good thing, because what happens when Omega releases version 2? What happens when the case back is slimmer that I complain about? The bracelet is more comfortable. What happens when the movement has a longer power reserve? It's more accurate. What happens when Omega does these things? What happens to the value of my watch? You know? What happens when the Rolex, again, this is a 116610. This is not a no date, but let's say this was a no date. Let's say tomorrow Rolex releases a new no date. Same issues. Let's say Rolex releases a new no date with a better movement and a longer power reserve and more accuracy and a different bezel, right? What's going to happen? This watch will probably be more valuable if Rolex changes their design. People will say, oh, the old one was so much better than the new one. It won't lose its money. That's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the Rolex will not lose its value. No matter what the company does, the Rolex will keep its value. It's like gold. I really stand by it. It's like gold. And we see it still. Look at the Rolex GMT, the Master 2 pre-ceramic. You know, that watch is going to be worth a lot of money. I had the GMT on my channel when I did the IWC versus Omega versus Rolex video. So that's these two watches. Hopefully I didn't just go on and on and on and hopefully there's something constructive or creative or something that you hadn't noticed before out of these two. Can they both be owned at the same time? Sure. But would I own a no-date sub and a Seamaster 300? Probably not, because they're essentially very close. If I had a Rolex date sub, a 116610, if I had a date sub, would I buy a no-date sub? Sure, but I know I'm buying the same watch. I know I'm buying the same watch, but without a date. Would you want to? I don't know. I mean, I feel like your money could be better spent elsewhere buying an Omega Speedmaster. But, you know, they're both great watches. They are. They really are. I love both of them. I think there's a place for both of them in a watch collection. I think that you could buy either one and just wear it as your single watch. But, you know, if I had to pick one, I don't know what I would pick. Obviously, I have a Seamaster 300 and I didn't buy a Rolex, but also the Seamaster 300 is a lot cheaper than a Rolex. You know, and now that I have a Rolex date, I'll never own a no-date sub. Or if I buy a no-date sub, I'm going to buy the older model, the aluminum bezel, because I think they're going to go up in value. I really do think that. Right now, it's one of the cheapest no-date subs you can. One of the cheapest Submariners you can buy that's pre-ceramic is a no-date sub. Whereas I think that this watch is a great watch. If I keep going, I'm just going to keep saying the same things over and over again, but hopefully that helped. I'm sorry I didn't cover the clasp. I'm going to make a separate video on just the clasp, kind of clasp bracelet on both of these, but mostly about the clasp and the glide lock versus the quick change on the Omega, whatever they call it. But I hope this video helped. I really do. That's all I think I have to say about these two. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. I just hope I covered all the details I really wanted to cover. And I'm Matt with Hoboken Horology. Thank you for watching this video. It's definitely going to be one of my longer ones. Thank you.